Now we're going to add the methods that we're going to use to connect to the interface objects that we're going to put into the Flipside view. So let's open Flipside View Controller. Here we are at Flipside View Controller.m, and as you can see, we already have a warning that it's not complete. Incomplete implementation. Indeed, we are going to try and complete some of it now. First, we're going to add the import statement to include MainViewController.h. Import, and it fills it out for us because it knows that's probably what we want there, especially because we typed MA first. So now we've imported the MainViewController.m file, and we need to import our constants file. Import constants.h. Now we have already added our synthesize statement for words of wisdom and slider so that we have our accessor methods. But in the deallocation method, we're going to want to also, besides deallocating super, we're going to want to send a nil message to the delegate. Next, we're going to add the text field methods to obtain the words of wisdom. We're going to go down here to before the other pragma mark statement and put in these statements. Now, the pragma mark statement, as you see here for view lifecycle, we're going to type one in here to mark our text field methods. The pragma mark statement is simply a way to organize your methods in this methods pop-up list in the Xcode text editor navigation bar. You see the pragma mark statement with a label. We just typed in text field methods for this one, but you can see the view lifecycle one below it. The dash and space that's used in the view lifecycle pragma mark puts in this separation that you see here between these two. That's here, this dash. That dash and space after pragma mark puts in the line across that jump bar right here between text field and view lifecycle. So it's a very useful way to separate the methods into sections in that menu. So we're going to type in the text field methods. Let's start with bool, returns a boolean. Text field should begin editing, and it already fills out UI text field star text field for us. So we put in our brackets. The UI text field delegate protocol defines the messages sent to a text field delegate as part of the sequence of editing its text, so that when a user performs an action that would normally start an editing session, the text field calls the text field should begin editing method to see whether editing should actually proceed. And in most circumstances, you simply return yes from this method to allow editing to proceed, which is why it's set to be Boolean. So we type in text field, set return key type, UI, return key next, semicolon, and return yes. And we'll now do the text field should return method. Also bool for Boolean. Text field should return. Again, it fills out UI text field and text field for us. Put in our brackets. So the text field calls the text field should return method whenever the user taps the return button on the keyboard. It does this to find out whether it should process the return. You can use this method to implement any kind of custom behavior when the return button is tapped. But for your purposes, you simply return yes, which is the default. You could return no to ignore the return button if that's what you wish. And here what we will type is yes. Text field, we use resign first responder and return yes. Okay, so we've said yes to this and yes to that, but the real action happens with the text field did end editing method. Let's get that started. That's a void. No need to return anything. Text field did end editing. It already knew we wanted to type that. UI text field and text field. And let's put in our brackets. We're ready to type this. Words of wisdom becomes the text field text. That's it. After the text field resigns its first responder status, the text field did end editing method is called to tell the delegate that editing stopped for the specified text field. So you now enabled the user to edit words of wisdom. Now we're going to modify the viewDidLoad method to obtain the speed from the slider. After we've set the background color, we want to capture that slider value. Slider value is plus k max speed minus main view controller star close paren self parent view controller, close paren, speed, semicolon. Code assigns the slider value to speed in main view controller. The text field is next. And that also assigned here, main view controller, the delegate, following words. Finally, we need the slider text value for the label. That is an NS string with format, and we're going to use at quote %.1f, the slider value. The slider text is derived from the slider value to show us what the speed is as we're sliding. So now that we've modified view to load, we also want to add IB action slider changed method and add some code to the existing IB action done method. Let's go look for them. We have our actions section here. It's marked with a pragma mark. And we're going to put in an IB action right here. Slider changed, id sender, it's already typed for us. Put in our brackets. Remember, all I did was type a bracket and hit return, and it puts in the other bracket. So our slider text value, our slider text is a string with format. And again, we're using the derivative here of slider value. There it is. There's our slider changed method. And what we want to do the IB action done method is put in a condition. If the text field dot text is equal to string blank, words of wisdom should then be the text field dot text. So what we're doing here with this code is converting the slider value to the string slider text in the IB action slide changed method. We also deal with the possibility of a blank text field here in the IB action done method. So what happens here is that the code assigns the text field's text to words of wisdom only if the field is not blank. Now this is all well and good. In fact, now, as you can see, we don't have that warning anymore about being an incomplete implementation. In fact, if you go look at the app delegate, we no longer have errors using falling words and speed in main view controller because those property declarations are now set. So we fixed our bugs and we're ready now to move on to the main view and add our settings.